Politically, this event has four main objectives. First, start the debate inside the European Parliament on unidentified anomalous phenomena, which is a topic that is dear to thousands of Europeans. The feedback that I've been having from several EU citizens and outside the EU borders has been overwhelming. Secondly, to decrease the stigma associated with the topic inside important sectors of our society, such as civil aviation, the military, journalism, but also politics. Third, and probably the most important, it's essential that all the debates surrounding UAPs is based in the scientific method and held in close cooperation with public institutions, the academia, civil society, and all the professionals that are willing to open and voluntarily share their experiences. Fourth, and lastly, the path of the European Union in regards of UAPs must be made with transparency, data sharing, and accountability, so we don't lose our credibility in a topic that is dear to many of our constituencies and citizens. Whatever the findings, we must foster this scientific approach to improve our institutions. Therefore, my work as a member of the European Parliament focuses on the creation of an EU harmonized system of monitoring, gathering, and analysis of data on UAPs. The EU, institutionally composed of 27 member states, does not have such system, and thus thousands of citizens and experienced professionals don't know or feel safe to report events they can't explain. We must improve our scientific methodology and connect the EU institutions to the public and academia in a transparent and credible way. For the sake of transparency, as a politician, I've made 3 written questions to the European Commission, with just one by now was replied. I've also made 2 interventions in the European plenary about the subject, and last week I've introduced an individual motion for resolution that requests the European Commission the creation of an harmonized system of collecting data and reporting on UAPs inside the EU by upgrading the regulations, Regulation 376/2014 on the reporting, analysis, and follow-up of occurrences in civil aviation. After these political considerations, let me present the panel and share some technical information. First, we'll have Mr. André Jol from UAP Quality Netherlands with a presentation about the topic of UAPs. Unfortunately, Mr. Joaquim Dekkers could not be present due to health-related issues. After, we'll pass to Mr. Edoardo Russo from the UAP Czech and Euroinfonet, who will guide us on the UAP's history in the European Union. Thirdly, we'll listen to Mrs. Beatriz Villarroel from the Nordic Institute of Theoretical Physics of Stockholm University and member of the Sol Foundation to present us her vision on the scientific approach we should have on analyzing UAPs. After, we'll connect online to the US with the former Navy pilot and Executive Director of Americans for Safe Aerospace, Ryan Graves. He will enlighten us about the recent developments in USA on the topic. Finally, but not least, we'll hear an important share and testimony of a civil aviator pilot, Christiaan van Heijst. So all the presentations will have up to 12 minutes, and in the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. For the Q&A, you can make your questions in the chat online, or raise your hand if you are present in the room. Please be concise when making your questions and direct them to a specific speaker if possible. For a final comment, let me just share that the presentations, views, and replies of each speaker are their solely responsibility, and those positions may not be shared by other speakers. So after these clarifications, let's jump into the conversation. So, Mr. André, you have the floor, and you'll go directly to the slides. Thank you very much.
First of all, I'd like to say I'm very honored and privileged to be here, and I'd like to thank very much Francisco Guerreiro for organizing this historic event. We, from the UAP Coalition Netherlands, are an independent NGO, and we represent the interested professionals within aviation, armed forces, and police who did have an encounter with UAP anomalous, unidentified anomalous phenomena. We also promote research, awareness raising, cooperation and regulations regarding UAP together with a dedicated team of volunteers. So it's essential to understand the significance of UAP, how they intersect with safety of our airspace, with our security, and our collective consciousness. So let me first try to explain what are UAP. In a way, the most straightforward definition is this is anything which is in space, air, on land, or in the sea that cannot be identified. In the past, the term UFO, unidentified flying object, was used, but now with more information becoming available, more sensors being online, we know these phenomena are also observed in other domains like the sea, and therefore the acronym and definition was changed. Over the years, there has been an increase in evidence based on a wide range of instrumental observations, for example, infrared, radar, photographs, videos, but also visual observations by trained observers, meaning pilots, military personnel, airfield personnel, scientists, etc., and also civilians. Near collisions involving military or commercial aircraft have actually been reported in the past. Many observations have also been done at military airfields with storage facilities for nuclear weapons and at nuclear power plants. We feel this is therefore really a serious topic. In recent years, many trained observers like pilots and people from the military have actually come forward with their experiences and their observations.
I mean, I think the bottom line is that we don't understand everything that we're seeing, and that's probably not surprising to anybody in many respects.
They locked their radar onto it. They followed it, and then all of a sudden it would move. And it had no exhaust, it had no plume, it had no visible wings or any kind of engines. So we don't know what it is, but it's something. That's why I'm announcing that NASA has appointed a NASA director of UAP research.
Footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they move, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
This topic is something that has been placed in the science fiction category. However, the occurrence of UAPs near our military bases has been documented and poses a national security threat, especially since so much about them is virtually unknown.
Really big speeds, and many witnesses saw this. There were something like 500 sightings in US of UFOs reported that month, like 35 times more than on average. And what happened in this time period, where they even had like fighter jets hunting for these mysterious objects that nobody knew what it was. What happened then was that even President Truman had to acknowledge that something was seen. So the US Air Force, on the 29th of July, 1952, they held the largest press conference in the United States after the end of the Second World War to discuss this kind of Washington flap, as sometimes is referred to. And what they did was saying, well, the radar observations were some kind of weather disturbances, and whatever the people saw in the sky at that time, that must have been some kind of misidentification. And that's where we're going to start this conversation. Welcome to my talk. I'm an astronomer. I'm also L'Oreal UNESCO International Rising Talents Prize winner in 2022. And my research topic, one of my research topics is searches for extraterrestrial intelligence. And that is what brings me here.
You guys hear me fine? I think the microphone is working. Well, thanks for allowing me to be here. My name is Christiaan van Heijst. I'm a Dutch airline pilot with over 20 years of professional flying experience, close to 10,000 flying hours. And besides that, I'm a professional photographer as well. I started my flying career flying turboprops in Africa, military operations in Afghanistan. After a couple of years, I moved to Boeing 737 that I flew all across Europe for about 5 years. And for the last 13, almost 14 years, I've been flying the Boeing 747 all across the world, and in the capacity of captain, commander since the last 3 years. I must really say I never really had a real interest in the UAP or UFO topic. I seen some things in the beginning part of my career that I found peculiar, but I always thought, together with my colleagues, that it must have been something military. It was only after I saw the testimony from Mr. Ryan Graves and also Commander David Fravor that I started to realize that the things that I've been seeing in the first couple of years of my flying career were actually maybe more special than I initially thought. I must say, also in the last 20 years of flying, I've seen a lot of things from the cockpit. I've seen military operations, meaning I've seen a lot of rockets, missiles, I've seen a lot of explosions, I've seen satellites, I've seen rockets being blown up in the sky, all sorts of celestial fireworks, let's say. But some of the things still defy an explanation. And it's only, as I said, after I saw the testimonies from Ryan Graves that I started to dig in further into my own experiences. And basically, I wanted to know what I've seen. I basically wanted to debunk the whole topic within 2 weeks because I had some vacation time and I just dove into it. And I basically came to the conclusion that the stuff that I've been seeing was just basically not explicable right now. And I started to worry more and more about the flight safety aspect of all those sightings because I'm flying sometimes up to 100 hours a month all across the world. And if there are things flying next to my airplane or pretty close to my airplane or close to the flying path of my airplane that are not identifiable, not even by air traffic control, this could pose a serious issue. So I decided to come forward. I'm one of the first, not really the first, but one of the first commercial pilots to come forward with my sightings in an effort to break the stigma and to hope that the flight safety aspect can be discussed openly, even if it means that we find out that it's a new weather phenomena or a new type of bird. I honestly don't really care. I just want to get to the bottom of it and make sure that professionals like me have a way to report these sightings. Now, about my own sightings, as I said, in the last 20 years of flying, I've seen a lot of interesting things. The most anomalous were actually only taking place in the first few years of my flying career, and they always took place over Europe, which is important to note because many people think that the UAP or UFO topic is something from Hollywood, it's American, but I can assure you it's definitely not. My first sighting was over Germany at night. It was a bright light that basically fell vertically down with an incredible speed. It disappeared into the clouds below. It illuminated the clouds below our airplane, indicating that it was something really outside of the cockpit. It wasn't just a reflection that I've seen. And even my instructor, which was flying next to me, it was one of my first flights as a commercial pilot, was really shocked by what we saw, and I never found an explanation for what it was. Almost 4 years later, I saw something very similar over the coast of Greece. It was a clear bright day, no clouds, no thunderstorms around. We were flying at around 36,000 feet, and suddenly there was just roughly 10 kilometers ahead of us and a little bit to the east of us, a bright light falling vertically down. The moment we saw it, I think it must have been coming in at an altitude of around 60,000 feet, which was the moment we could actually see it coming into the window frame. And it fell down within, let's say, roughly 1.5 seconds into the sea, just disappearing into the Adriatic Sea. We quickly made a short calculation on the back of our hands, and we calculated that it was moving, not even falling, but vertically moving with a speed of around 30,000 kilometers an hour, which is hypersonic, which is just incredible. I immediately asked air traffic control if there was any military activity, if there was any rocket launches or maybe something else going on. The military air traffic controller dismissed it immediately, and he left us just without any answers to our question. Another sighting, which happened over Greece, it happened in the same night that the carrier group with the USS Theodore Roosevelt, the American nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, was passing by just south of our location. And all of a sudden, it was a bright night, just a full sky full of stars, no clouds. We saw a very bright light appearing in the sky just ahead of us. It was impossible to judge how high it was, but it was, let's say, among the stars. It was very high. It disappeared and reappeared 4 times in succession. It was moving not like any satellite or airplane I've seen. And the 4th time it reappeared, it shot out with instantaneous speed, and it just disappeared among the stars. I have no other way to explain it, but the speed was just instantaneous and absolutely incredible. And we've never seen anything like this before. Neither my colleague who was sitting next to me saw it as well. As I said, that same night, the USS Theodore Roosevelt was passing by. So our default answer was, well, it must be something military, probably connected. But still, it was always in the back of my mind because I I simply cannot even imagine what type of technology or propulsion could generate such an instantaneous speed. And the fourth sighting that I had took a little bit longer than a few seconds. It actually took almost a full hour.